Let me ask you something, and I want you to answer it honestly, just to yourself, nobody else is listening. You're 60 years old, or thereabouts, and when you look at what you've actually got set aside for retirement, the number is small, frighteningly small. Or perhaps there's no number at all, and there's a particular feeling that comes with that, isn't there? A sort of cold weight that settles in your chest at about 3 in the morning. Well, I want to talk to you today, properly, calmly, about exactly what you can do from right here. Not what you should have done at 30, from here, from today. I've got 12 things for you, and some of them might genuinely surprise you. My name is Oliver Pembroke, and for the best part of my working life, I sat across a desk from ordinary people and helped them make sense of their money. And the conversation I'm about to have with you is one I had more times than I could ever count. So let's start with the most important thing of all, and I mean this. Number one, you are in far better company than you imagine, and the door has not closed. I want you to hear that properly. There is this quiet shame people carry about being behind, as though everyone else cracked the code and they alone fumbled it. That simply isn't true. An enormous slice of the country arrives at 60 in precisely your position, and the reasons are never laziness. You were young and skint and just keeping the lights on. Then perhaps there were children and a mortgage that ate everything and a car that died at the worst possible moment and parents who needed helping, and somewhere in all of that, the years quietly folded themselves away. Nobody handed you a spare decade to invest, so please set the guilt down. It weighs a great deal and it buys you absolutely nothing. Yes, starting at 30 would have been easier, but the ground you've lost can be made up, and I'm going to show you how. Number two, take a proper inventory and be ruthlessly honest about your runway. Sit down and work out your actual timeline. If you're 60 and in reasonable health, you've potentially got 7 years before the state pension arrives, and you may well keep earning past that. That is not nothing. That is a real window, and a great deal can happen inside 7 years if you attack it with intent rather than drifting through it. And here's the thing people forget. Your single greatest asset is not a fund or a property, it's your ability to earn. That income, the one you can still go out and command, that's the goose that lays the golden egg. Protect it, sharpen it, and use it deliberately. And let me say something that catches people off guard. It is not what you earn that decides your retirement, it's what you keep. I sat with people on enormous salaries who had nothing, genuinely nothing, because every pay rise simply vanished into a bigger life. And I sat with people on the most modest wages imaginable who'd quietly built a tidy pot through sheer discipline. The income was never the deciding factor. The keeping was. Number three, you cannot mend what you refuse to look at. So look. I want you to find out precisely what comes in and what goes out each month. I know the word budget makes people's eyes glaze over. It sounds like a punishment, like being put on bread and water. So don't call it a budget if you'd rather not. Call it your map, because that's what it is. It simply shows you where the money is going and hands you the power to redirect it. You can't steer a thing you've never measured. And I promise you, a map doesn't trap you. It's the only thing that gets you out. Number four, run a 30-day money trace. For the next full month, I want you to track every single penny that leaves your hands. Every coffee, every subscription you forgot you had, every tap of the card. Pen and paper is perfectly fine. Don't dress it up. And when the month is done and you sit back and look at the total, you'll have one of those uncomfortable, brilliant moments where the truth just stares back at you. Most people find a small fortune leaking out through cracks they never even knew were there. That trace is where the recovery begins. Number 5, every pound you stop losing is a pound you've effectively earned tax-free. Once that map is in front of you, the changes become obvious. Picture it for a moment. Imagine if you kept far more of what came in and funneled it somewhere that actually worked for you. I'm not pretending you can live on air, but run the sum anyway. If you could redirect a serious chunk of your income every month for the next 7, 10, 15 years into the right places, the pot you'd build would astonish you. It's bigger than your instinct tells you, because you're not just saving the money, you're saving the money it would have earned too. Number 6, get inventive. This is where the real leaps happen, and I want to tell you about 2 people I knew because stories land harder than sums ever will. The first was a woman named Dorothy, mid-50s, barely a bean saved, renting a flat that swallowed most of her wage. Now Dorothy was warm, capable, the sort who'd been looking after other people her whole life. And it turned out there was an elderly gentleman in her town, lovely chap, living alone in a big house he could no longer manage, who badly needed someone about the place. So they came to an arrangement. She moved in, kept house, cooked, kept him company, and kept an eye on him, and in exchange her rent simply vanished, and there was a little money on top. For 2 years, her largest expense, gone. She poured every spare pound into her pot. That arrangement rebuilt her retirement in a way that paying rent into a landlord's pocket never, ever would have. The second was a couple, Geoff and his wife, 61, very little behind them, but Geoff was earning at the peak of his career. So they did something bold. They sold the big family house, the one with the rooms nobody used, and the garden that ate every weekend, and they moved in with their grown daughter, who was juggling part-time work, studying, and a toddler. They paid her a fair rent, chipped in on the bills, and looked after their grandson while she got on her feet. For 3 years they slashed their outgoings to the bone and saved an extraordinary proportion of Geoff's wage. It rescued their daughter from crippling childcare costs, and it rebuilt their retirement at the same time. When the 3 years were up, they bought a small, easy, low-maintenance place and never looked back. Everybody won. That is what inventive looks like. Number 7, work a little longer and stop treating 65 like a cliff edge. For decades, we've all carried this notion that 65 is the finishing line, full stop. But that number is a relic. We live a great deal longer than the people who invented it ever did, and the odds that you or your partner will see your 90s are far higher than most folk assume. So plan for a long life, because you may very well have one. Working a few more years, even part-time, does something almost magical to your numbers. It pours money in at the very moment you'd otherwise be drawing money out, and it shortens the stretch your savings have to cover. And if the thought of your current job for one more day fills you with dread, then leave it. Find something gentler, something you'd actually enjoy. Start a small venture of your own. There is far more out there than people let themselves believe. Number 8, hold off on your state pension if you possibly can, because it pays you to wait. This is one of the most powerful and least understood levers you have. If you keep working past state pension age and you don't need the money straight away, you can defer your state pension. And for every 9 weeks you delay it, the amount you eventually receive goes up by 1%. That works out at just under 5.8% extra for every full year you wait. And crucially, that uplift is permanent. It's paid to you for the rest of your life, and it rises with inflation on top. On today's figures, the full new state pension is around £241 a week. Defer it for a year while you're still earning, and you'll come back to roughly £14 a week more, every week, forever. Now, deferring isn't right for everyone. It depends on your health and whether you can manage without it, so think it through carefully. But for the right person, still working and in good nick, it's a guaranteed inflation-proof pay rise that almost nobody talks about. Number 9, look after the body and the mind, because your health is a financial asset. I'm dead serious about this one. A sedentary, neglected life leads to illness, and illness in this country can cost you in ways that go far beyond the obvious. But more than that, when you're fit and sharp, you have the energy to keep earning, to keep working longer, to actually enjoy the retirement you're fighting so hard to build. There is no point assembling a comfortable pot if you've no health left to spend it on. Walk every day. Eat like someone who intends to be here at 90. Keep your mind busy and curious. Return on that investment is enormous, and it compounds just like money does. Number 10, keep the faith, and I mean faith in yourself most of all. When you're staring at a small number and a shrinking runway, it's terribly easy to decide it's hopeless and simply give up. Don't. You are far more capable than the frightened voice at 3 a.m. tells you. You're more resourceful, more resilient, more inventive than you give yourself credit for. People rebuild from nothing all the time, at every age, and there's no fate written down anywhere that says you can't be one of them. The deciding factor was never the circumstances. It was always the resolve of the person facing them. Decide you're going to do this, and then be stubborn about it. Number 11, never stop learning, because knowledge is what turns effort into results. Read. Learn how money actually works in this country, because the rules matter enormously and most people never bother to learn them. Understand your pensions, both the state pension and any workplace or personal pots you've got. Understand ISAs, where your money can grow without the taxman taking a slice of the gains. Understand that once you're 55, and this is rising to 57 in a couple of years, you can access a private pension and take a quarter of it tax-free. Understand catch-up contributions, the generous tax relief the government adds to your pension when you pay in, which is, frankly, free money sitting on the table. The person who understands the rules will always outpace the person who simply works harder in the dark. And number 12, don't dismiss the value locked up in your home. For a great many people listening to this, the single largest asset they own isn't a pension at all. It's the house they're sitting in. And there are ways to turn some of that stone into spending money without having to pack up and leave it. Equity release, and a lifetime mortgage in particular, lets a homeowner aged 55 or over unlock a tax-free lump sum or income from the value of their property, while carrying on living there for the rest of their days. Now, I'll be straight with you, because I always am. This is a serious decision with serious trade-offs. The interest rolls up and compounds over the years, which eats into what you'd leave behind, and it can affect certain benefits, so it is absolutely not something to rush into. Downsizing might suit you better, or a retirement interest-only mortgage. But for the right person, in the right circumstances, releasing some of that locked-up wealth can be the very thing that transforms an anxious retirement into a comfortable one. Just promise me you'll take proper, regulated advice before you go anywhere near it. So there they are, 12 things you can do starting today if you've reached 60 with little or nothing put by. And I want to leave you with the thought I started with, because it's the one that matters most. The door has not closed. It feels as though it has at 3 in the morning, but it hasn't. You have time, you have your ability to earn, you have your wits, and now you have a plan. That's a great deal more than most people give themselves credit for. Before I go, the usual honest word from me. I'm an accountant, not your accountant. Everything I've said today is general guidance to get you thinking, not personal financial advice. And the figures are right for the current tax year, but they do shift about. The moment your situation gets complicated, with several pensions or equity release, or a question of which pot to draw from first, go and get proper regulated advice. Pension-wise, the free government service for the over 50s is a marvellous place to start, and it won't cost you a penny. And if any part of this has been useful to you, do let me know. Leave me a comment and tell me which of the 12 struck a chord, because I read every single one and it tells me what to talk about next. Look after yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.